So my name is Michael Harding. I'm just a boring guy that likes blockchain and likes gaming and likes educating on both. That makes me even more boring because I like reading reports. And fantastically, BGA do reports. So that's my dream world. So that's enough about me. Let's go on to our first amazing speaker. His name is Joseph Cooper. Joseph, I believe that you are based in both San Fran and Hong Kong.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I go back and forth, but mostly Hong Kong these days.
Okay, and I also believe that you started coding at 9.
That is right. You did your research.
I did my research. This guy has been modding since 9 years old. That's pretty impressive. And next up we have Anton from Helika. Helika, I believe you guys make incredible data pools for gaming companies. You work with the likes of Yuga Labs, you work with Animoca, you work with even the likes of Ubisoft. So how did you amass a team that comprises of people from NASA, from Tesla, and even EA?
Hey guys, good to be here. Yeah, by the way, BJ is crushing it as always. That's the best co-working space I've seen globally, probably. Yeah. Like, Jesus, we gotta bring it to Canada. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, all of us very excited about Web3 gaming because the gaming is not only about the games; it's a gateway for the rest of the sectors in Web3. So we see that many people try the blockchain first for the gaming, then they try DeFi products, etc. So it's a massive opportunity, and yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have a very special guest from DMM. I believe your name is Rumi. And Rumi, your platform, from what I understand, has 2.5 billion in revenue and also has 41 million users, which is a lot more than most Web3 games, we can say. So yeah, tell us about your journey in terms of how did you get started in DMM? How did that come about?
So, hello everyone, I'm Rumi. So actually, 41 million members is just Web 2 right now. And we tried, so now we issue tokens and creating gaming platform and try to bring them to Web 3 users right now. And we do not only gaming, also we try to be entertainment platform. So it's kind of, so we would add entertainment to your ordinary life soon.
Yes. So as you can see, we've got quite a diverse audience here working from different geos from around the world. So one of the obvious elephants in the room we need to talk about when it comes to working with game developers from around the world is just behavior and work ethic and different working cultures. What would you say, let's start with yourself, having worked with both US developers and Asian developers, what's the difference and what's the first hurdle that you often face in terms of work culture?
Wow, that's a really good question just for the general blockchain space and just building companies. So I would say, and this is going to be pretty critical on just culture in general, is that in the West, there's a lot of people who really can just innovate and think about ideas and they almost have too many ideas in a sense. And they will raise red flags. If I, as the founder, am like, hey, I want to do this, they'd be like, well, that's kind of a crappy idea. And they'll actually push me back on the West. But in the East, there's a bit of I would be very honest, a culture hierarchy in a sense that when I have ideas, there is no questions. But the best part of the East is that they execute ideas really, really well. And one of the things that we do struggle with, though, is that as they're executing ideas, that idea could be so bad they can literally walk off a bridge and then, it's just burning on fire. So there are no red flags that this is going in the wrong direction. But if you mix the two, which is what we're doing actually, it actually works really well when you have the right people overseeing what is being built, and then you have some of the best executors and smartest people, which I would vote on the East on that side, and put them together. You can do some really great things.
Yourself?
Yeah, totally agree on that. So for the context, Helika, we have about 50 people, and everyone's pretty evenly distributed between US, Canada, APAC, and Europe. So totally agree with that. Is that US is almost like too bullish on their ideas sometimes, right? But in APAC, for sure, the issue that could arise is that it's very hierarchical. You said it right, and I think it's almost like you have to extract additional feedback from the teams. They would not necessarily flag it sometimes up front. So at Helika, we just have very kind of open table to say, hey guys, tell me to screw off. I would tell directly to the team because it's all about sharing ideas.
For yourself, I'm guessing, what are the differences that you've seen from Western work culture and from work culture in Japan?
Work culture, so it's kind of general thing, but Japanese people work a long time, right? So yeah, maybe it's same as crypto though. And as a developer and also like I'm BD and also marketing team and everyone like work a lot. But I'm not sure about the European culture. But as Japanese, yeah, yeah, as usual. I don't know how to say. And also like as in the crypto, we work with like global, so not only Japan. Like we work with U.S. company and European company. So in that case, we have to start the earlier morning or like that. It's happening too.
And just to add to this one, I think first of all, Japan is like the best countries to work with, even it. Yeah.
Well, but yeah, it is.
No, but to add to this one, I think even from the customer perspective, it takes a long time to convince a customer to work with you for various reasons. But once the customer works with you, it's kind of forever. Well, plus minus forever. In US, it's very transactional type of business. You know, you always compete for the market share. So loyalty is way less compared to the some of the APAC markets, like Japan.
Interesting, very interesting. So another elephant in the room, one that we all love talking about, is regulation and policy. I'm from the United Kingdom, so yeah, that stuff. Regulatory and policy issues. What kind of regulatory and policy issues do you kind of run into that often pop up?
Yeah, I'll just start. So it's, first of all, as a crypto business, I was kind of wondering, so I've been in Web 2 for the longest time, building Web 2 games and built 5 different companies, but I was wondering, why do you have to raise so much money in crypto? Just the money's flowing a lot more over in this space for whatever reason, be it decentralized, be it whatever, and I realized it's for the legal fees, that's for sure. And I haven't spent so much money on legal fees ever in any business so far, at least at a seed startup stage. So first of all, I would say that it always changes. You know, you'll have a strategy, you'll think, you know, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is what's going to happen, but then something changes, and you just need to be prepared for that. So I would say that you always want to lean into utility, you always want to lean into, I would say what I like to pursue right now is value. Like in value, not value extraction, not value as in how much money am I going to make, more actual entertainment value, consumer value. And if you live in that world and you just focus there, at least we can showcase some examples in this space of products that are being built. And that's a bit of a sideline of it, of staying away from that world. And that's currently how we think about it.
Yeah, I would just add that totally agree with that. I would say that some people might view APAC that there are many regulations, like a lot of regulations depending on the market compared to US, but actually on the gaming side, we're seeing this combination allows the teams to build very innovative gameplay. So the products or the games that are coming from APAC, I think in many cases they are not only relying on full ID like traditional gaming side, but the game mechanics, features, introducing DeFi elements is way more innovative that we're seeing in some of with the US companies. So I think regulations could be the blocker, but in many cases it actually helps the product. It'll be seen in Korea and Japan as well.
Yes. And what about yourself? What kind of policies would you like to see? What kind of regulation problems would you like to see?
So if we talk about the gaming thing, and especially we are strict about gamble system. So I think all of us want to have a gamble gaming to attract many users, but actually it's so if the user would lose their assets or increase your asset, and we can cash out. Like we can't have it on e-Japan, so we have to really take care of that. And I try to working with the gaming from outside of Japan too. And if they have something similar gamble thing, we have to talk a lot. But it's difficult to tell them like how important it is too. So that's why like we are struggling with how we can like work together with the outside of Japan and also the gamble gaming.
And just to add to this one, I think practical example about regulations in Japan. So on the Helika front, so we have the core part of our business, but we also run Accelerator, $50 million one. And we've been surprised initially when we started getting applications in Japan in particular from very big teams, Sega for example, and I was like, why don't these like trying to apply to get the money? Big companies. So what's interesting is in many cases, and I'm not a lawyer, but in many cases, big teams cannot necessarily focus directly on the Web3 gaming for various reasons, including gambling, but they actually do spin-off companies, which effectively is a startup. So yes, they get IP, they get support, but it's very challenging, I think, for some Japanese big conglomerates like DMN to be able to do Web3 in some cases.
Company of listed can have token actually, but our company DMM is private company. That's why we can issue token, and it's easier than other enterprise in Japan.
I'd just like to add to like what would we like to see is I really want a clarity on what a utility token is globally, like in many countries as possible, because I think that's really the debate of are we going into a place where we want to support the audience of how do you make money, how do you invest, which is a great audience. Not that I don't want to support that. I think that's a very confusing, over-regulated, and will be a lot of pain for startups to like get into that space. But for a place where you want to create digital economies, game economies, it should just be clear. Like I don't want to make a game like I do in Web 2 and then just let it be a transparent, open economy and get Web 3, and then I get sued for some reason by the SEC, right? I'm just trying to make a game, So if that could be more clear, starting at a country by country or global level, that would really help me sleep at night.
Okay, so you mentioned Sega, so I'm going to have to address another elephant in the room, which is Oasis. So the Oasis network, what kind of impacts do you think that's going to have on international collaboration, positive or negative?
Oasis is one of our customers, so what?
Yeah, well, you're allowed to say.
Be careful.
But general comment about the chains, just kind of to level set it. I think because we are in the bull market right now. Yes, there's some corrections happening, but I think we're in the bull market. There's a lot of chains right now that people are building, raising money for, and that exist. I was in Denver a couple months ago, and people talk about not only L2s, L3s, but L4s now. You know what I mean? And so I think it's a function, with the amount of chains that we're seeing, just a function of the bull market. You don't need that many chains. So I think agnostic of Oasis, all the chains, quite frankly, are struggling because you need to drive the traffic, you need devs and users to be able to do that. So I think chains will be competing very hard this year and next year. And a company like Helika actually helps them out to bring developers and users on board as well.
So,
yeah, I would say just aside from Oasis and all the many L5 chains out there, I would say that I've spoken to a lot of chains, looking for a new home for Last Remains, which is a game they're working on. Then we have Earn Alliance, and we have probably around 1.5 million active users across both of them. These are real users that we really like multi-accounting, botting, bunch of data on them, and we're figuring out where do we want to take them, right? So the conversations that I'm having with chains is like, what could we do together as a partner? This is my value that I'm bringing to it. I'm asking my users to spend gas, in most of these areas. You're asking to sponsor it, which, that's going to run out one day. So it's just a bit of a confusing, value exchange that I don't really see yet. So until somebody, I think like the best chains out there that have users, such as like Base, for example, or Binance, which Coinbase and Binance Exchange has a bunch of users that they could potentially figure out how to funnel into products. That's probably like the most value exchange that I can see today, aside from funding. But yeah, I think it's about figuring out what are chains actually adding value to products.
Yes. Any comments from you?
Yeah, so if I say, so Oasis is working with a lot of Japanese projects. That's why they can be the connector of the Japan and other projects, I think. And our protocol is also on Oasis. And also the Ubisoft from Paris is also have first on Oasis. So I think from there, we can make a collaboration by Oasis, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, and just to add this one as well, I think there's originality in the chain selection by different customers and game studios. Obviously, Oasis is Japanese-based, so there's high degree of interest to work with Oasis. Some of the other local Japanese chain in Korea, for example, is XP one of the big partners as well. So there's kind of international play and regional play. Helika is super bullish on. I'm personally very bullish on Telegram and Ton. So we're actually making big moves to support Ton. I think at the end of the day, it's 1 billion active users, and you see the big overlap between people who use Telegram, but also about 20-30% would think is interested in games and Web3 games in particular.
I think everyone by now has heard of Hamster Combat and seen the amount of users that they've managed to attract, and I think it's definitely something that people are going to be thinking about. However, with Hamster Combat, there isn't really a story, and this brings me on to one of the questions that is kind of personal to me. I'm a massive manga and anime fan. Is anyone in the room an anime and manga fan? Yeah? So, Japan is notorious for having incredible stories, incredible character design, and just capturing like audiences' imagination. And this is one of the things that's just completely missing, in my opinion, from the Web3 gaming space, is just any attention to story. How do you see the potentiality for cross collaboration when it comes to storytelling and narratives between Japan and other places?
Yeah, I'll start with just like one of my main jobs as a founder right now is actually getting great people into the space. So a good example is I have this game designer that just joined for our game. It took me 2 years of convincing them about the problems of like, I know Web3 is crazy, there's free economies, I know that people are calling it, schemes and all this stuff, but this is what we could do, right? And I actually think the problem starts there, is like, how could you get some of the brightest minds interested in this problem of creating sustainable economies, experimenting with, bringing IPs and creating hamster combat, which is a very basic like thing, but imagine if it was done with the right partnerships in place, right? Which probably people are talking about it right now and again, right? So I think it starts with talent. I think it starts with just continuing to talk about the potential and convincing them to count.
So the reason like the big IP like One Piece or Naruto don't have the NFT is Japanese enterprise don't like to take a risk, and the IP already popular, so there's no reason to take a risk too. So, but I have a friend from Japanese enterprise which has a big IP, and the guy want to make it as NFT, but he couldn't. So because that's why like he tried to make an IP by himself with a well story, and try to, if the NFT can be popular, the company can be more easier to get NFT for the big IP too. So like there are many people try to have them as an NFT. So it's coming in the future, but not yet. And yeah, we're trying to right now.
And also, I think like the company's looking for the success story, the Web3 gaming. Maybe Hamster is kind of be one of that. I mean, they attracted a lot of users, Noncoin and others. But I think at the end of the day, from the publisher, from the game studio perspective, Web3 is less than 1% of sales. So like, why would I risk my IP? Because this is my core business whatsoever, right? So I think as it will take off, there'll be more willingness to share IP with the Web3 games as well.
So, sticking on the IP subject, there's a very well-known brand called Square Enix that released a NFT collection for Final Fantasy, and it wasn't that well received by audiences. What kind of challenges, and obviously we see the challenges, what do you think can be done to overcome these challenges from these big IP brands, especially the Japanese ones, and then deploying them to Western audiences to actually make them engage and be happy with the delivery?
I think so. We have lack of Web3 users, I think. So so the gaming from Square Enix had a good transaction in the community, but still, like, I think it's too small for that. That's why we are thinking, as DMM, we think we have to do the mass adoption, and we have 41 million members in the company, and we are creating Web3 platform. So I think if we can make them to more Web3 game, and it's better, it's more easier to make it mass adoption for in Japan and also globally. So then like the all gaming is much better to be more successful, I feel.
And to add to this one, I think what can you do better? Not even using Square Enix example. I think the companies have to go deeper into player segmentation of Web3 core this piece, right? And so if you look at somebody who's playing mid-core games plus, it would be very different. It would be very different audience than play-to-earn consumers in Southeast Asia, for example, right? So if you launch a team, if you launch a product, who are you actually targeting? What's the objective here? Whose loyalty, retention, engagement would be very different across those sectors.
Yeah, I'll add, it actually goes back to your original question of culture. And NFTs is a different type of culture in the world, which is, are you there to make money? Are you there to just be part of a community? Because people, it's just JPEGs, right? And then whatever you add on top of that is where it expands. But the most people in the Web3 audience, like you said, is Web3 is small and there's a culture around it. There is value of like having an NFT, trading it, be a part of like a VIP community, going to events, meeting each other, and essentially connecting on like-minded things, right? But if you do that for an audience that isn't part of this culture, such as everybody that plays Square Enix, and they're like, well, what's going on? And then there's no utility, no value from it. So the Web3 community is also like, well, it was a big IP, but there's like nothing here, and I wanted to make money or I wanted to do whatever. It's a culture gap, right? So I think it's really about targeting the right people and figuring out, okay, well, if this is the approach with this technology, which is called blockchain, this is actually who we're going to target the value that they're interested in, you actually give it to.
And then on the kind of data side and the culture aspect side, you'll probably be able to give us more insight into this from Helika's point of view. But what would you say the differences between the users? So one of the things we often see is a game starts, they just go and get some KOLs, and they're just like, oh yeah, if I just get these influencers to just promote my game, it'll work, and I'll get users. But what would you say the differences are between users, like, say for example, do European users like crypto tokens more, or do they, and do Asian customers like NFTs more, or what's the kind of things that you see?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, APAC or Japanese users, they are very IP heavy, right? So Japan is obviously known for the IP, while I think European players, the companies, they're more focusing on the game economics, game mechanics, more innovative gameplay versus IP necessarily. So I think that's kind of the baseline segmentation. And also just like, if you think it from the company perspective, game studio perspective, I think in Web3, you almost like incentivize as the founder of a game studio, I'm not, but I would guess, to maximize the price of your token, because that's at the end of the day kind of proxy for the share, if you will. And so how do you do that, right? So I think if you look at from the Helika angle, if you look at the price of the tokens right now, there's no alpha, there's no fundamentals getting priced in. And in token, generally speaking, that's why the marketing KOL support is very important, because it's all sentiment or hype driven, if you will. So I think it depends. I don't think many of the Web3 companies, in some cases, incentivize to necessarily drive a lot of users. They are, but many people are, concerned about the token price, and you can do it in a couple of different ways.
Yes. So Joseph, individual question for yourself. In terms of being the guy that's having to travel between Hong Kong and the US all the time, what kind of differences do you think the developments in VR and AR make to games development in terms of international collaboration?
Yeah, I think for VR and AR right now, I think it's almost as cutting edge as blockchain itself. And I think it's going to start with the hardware, right? We're just not there yet. Your head hurts after a few hours being in that world. I haven't done the Vision Pro yet because I'll probably wait till the Vision 2 comes out, so the tweaks are there. I'm not sure what's going to happen, right? So there's all kinds of different people looking at it, just as being risk averse of like, damage to your, personal body, what's happening to your money in blockchain, right? So in terms of VR to AR, I would say we're still waiting for the hardware to crack. Fortunately, AI has come into play, which is just speeding up like the rendering and the hardware building and these new chips that are being literally co-developed with AI now. That's probably going to speed up VR and AR development even more. So I think it's more of a time ticking game. And then once that's over, then we can actually start developing products on it. So right now I'm kind of thinking it's let's let the hardware people have their fun, get it up, and then we'll come in and build products later.
Cool. And then final question, one for yourself. Do things get lost in translation? So when it comes to working with teams multinationally, do you find that things often get lost when someone's trying to explain things from one language to another, and it's just not quite the same meaning?
Yeah, it happens a lot because our team has 50 members, but I think only five people can speak English. So if we talk with the gaming studio or the marketing company or the developers, someone has to be translator, but they are not professional translator. So sometimes when we fix the condition, we have to take care, like writing text or something. Then otherwise, it's difficult to make it like fixed conditions too. So it's kind of difficulty, but still, like as crypto, we have to be globally, not close in Japan. That's why we're trying to be global and try to learn English. And yeah, we are on our way. Yeah.
I think that's a wrap there. Are we allowed to take audience questions? Yeah. Okay. Has anyone got a question for anyone on the panel? No, we have none. Okay. Oh, we got one there.
So I'm just my interest and my questions maybe for many speakers would be about the user acquisition. How can we do you feel that we can see for example, this is a question for Anton. Yeah. Do you feel this year or next year we can see a really breach in terms of the mass adoption or micro adoption from Telegram, from the Telegram net, or from others? Because I've been on this game since 2019. We have 5 million players in our Telegram games, but it's still only the beginning. It's still only the beginning. Do you feel that we can see some major breakthrough this year, next year? How do you feel?
Yeah, totally. I think what's interesting is everyone last year and this year were talking about mass adoption and things like that, and I think half of the market, in particular US and Europe to some extent, missed the whole headlines about Telegram and new features that they launched. Partially because honestly Telegram's features are geofenced in US, so they kind of didn't really know. So I think to answer your question, the problem of having users, I think it's actually solved, right? I mean, and with your product, there's other products, there's a lot of users. The question now is, how can you improve the targeting for the games, right? How can you add additional data enrichment on top of that, so that if I'm building the first shooter game, the audience that I'm attracting, it's not kind of gen pop, it's a general population, but it's more in a targeted way. And we track different metrics from retention perspective, retention of day 3, D7, etc. So it's both a funnel. How can you track the right person that will stick in and continue playing the game?
I would like to add to that. So, like, I've spent $20 to $30 million a month on acquiring users for my previous startup, and about 60% of them drop off the second day, but we still profit, off of that spend. And I think that problem alone is already a problem that people don't understand in this space. So when I speak to people in crypto, and it's probably lack of, again, talent and marketing that is in this space, it's actually just very expensive to get anybody to like whatever you like to build, right? You could build a cool game, it could be niche, it could be a weird product, whatever it is. So first of all, we need the backup, and it's not about crypto. It's not because it's crypto that people aren't liking it. It's because what are we building that people want to like, and then how much are you going to spend to actually get them to look at it? And then what's the drop-off rate, right? So definitely, I think first understanding that problem is going to be key for this space. And then one of the things that we're doing is like performance advertising on our alliance. So you can get users not only through our network, but through different games. That there's actually 25 million daily active users we're about to announce through a game network where you can incentivize them to come check out your app. And that helps out a lot because right now you could spend millions of dollars on ad impressions to show pictures that hopefully people click on, but you pay us after people actually go to your app. Right, so it's performance engagement. So there's different strategies that I think we'll introduce as we keep evolving as an ad space. But to answer your question, it's a very expensive game.
Fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, we've got one more. Can we take that one? Unfortunately, we've got no more time. Thank you, everybody, for being our amazing panelists. Let's give these guys a round of applause.